Hey everyone, lately I've been getting some messages from a lot of people saying that they're having issues with their slicers. In particular, that the parts are missing some or all of the internal structure, or that they can't get the slicer to change settings with a change in Z height. For example, when wanting to print a solid firewall in a part, but not wanting the entire mesh to be 100% solid. So today I'm going to show you the settings you need and some little tricks in three common slicers that we use for 3D printing: Cura, Prusa slicer, and Bambu Studio. Before getting started, I should mention that I am in no way an expert on any of these slicers. My preferred slicer is Simplify 3D, but after going through these slicers, this is some of the settings I've found that seem to work for the parts that I make. So when I first open up this part in Cura, you'll notice that the firewall doesn't print, and also if we zoom in on this part here, the internal structure isn't welded properly to the outside of the outside perimeter wall. And there we can see the firewall's not printed, it's just hollow. So now we're going to have a look at how we get around that issue. So firstly, the settings I use, we want a layer height of 0.25 millimeters. Walls, you want one single perimeter wall. You want the wall ordering from outside to inside. For the top and bottom, you want 0 top layers, 0 bottom layers. Infill, 0%. If we go down to special modes, go to print sequence, you want it printing all at once and the surface mode set to normal. In experimental, you want the slicing tolerance set to exclusive. Setting the surface mode to normal and the slicing tolerance to exclusive allows the slicer to bring the internal support structure right up to the perimeter wall, giving a nice weld for that internal structure to the perimeter wall. To create a support blocker, on the left hand side, hit the support blocker button. Hold the E button on your keyboard and then left click. See the support blockers come in there, select it, change the size of the support blocker so that it engulfs the entire model there, and make the Z height for that part the thickness of the intended firewall. So for here we've got 4 millimeters. Next you want to move the part so that it's sitting where the firewall will be in the mesh. For this one it's going to be right on the bed, so set it to 0 and place the support blocker over where the firewall will be on the part. With the support blocker selected, click the Per Model Settings tab and select the option for Modify Settings for overlaps. So for this particular part, the firewall is 4 millimeters thick. So 4 millimeters at a layer height of 0.25 millimeters, we're going to need 16 layers. So we just input that. Okay, we'll hit slice and see how that turns out. So as we can see here, the firewall is sliced nicely, perfectly solid. And as we run it up through the layers, the remainder is a single perimeter wall. For Prusa Slicer, you come into the print settings, go to the print settings, layers and perimeters. We want a layer height of 0.25 millimeters. We want one perimeter wall, 0 solid top and bottom layers. Then we come over to the infill. We want 0% infill. Go over to the advanced tab. In the slicing, you want the slicing mode to be set to even-odd. Now setting up for the firewall, I have to apologize, the screen recorder I've got doesn't capture the drop down boxes when I right click, but over on the where it says left pod 2, you're going to right click, go down to height range modifier, change the height that you want the firewall to be. In this case it's 4 millimeters. Then you go over to the layers tab, you're going to right click there, select the layers and perimeters option, come down to bottom solid layers, and we're going to input 16, the same as we did in Cura for that 4 millimeter firewall. Now we just slice it up and it should work. Okay, there we can see the firewall's printed completely solid and the rest of the model is printed with a single perimeter wall. So that seems to have worked pretty well. And now onto Bambu Studio, same as the other two, you want a layer height of 0.25 millimeters. You want one perimeter wall, 0 top layers, 0 bottom layers, 0% infill. And if you click on the Others tab, go down to the Special Mode section, Slicing Mode, you need to select Even-Odd. Okay, we've sliced that up. We can see that the firewall hasn't been printed there because we haven't done those settings yet, but the internal structure is nicely welded to the perimeter wall. So following the same process as Prusa Slicer, in Bambu Studio, we're going to go over to Objects, and we're going to right click, select that height range modifier, adjust the range from 0 to 4 millimeters for that firewall. Then we're going to come over to strength and select 1 perimeter wall and 16 solid bottom layers. Okay, that's finished slicing, and we can see that the firewall's printed out beautifully. Solid layers all the way through, and then a nice single perimeter wall for the rest of the model. So there we have it, guys. Just some basic settings on these 3 different slices in order to be able to get the parts printing nicely. If I've missed anything, or if you know of any other tips or tricks for the settings to get these parts to print really well, be sure to let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and happy printing.